expensive price to pay for a little bit of fun. Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House and move its second reading.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr Speaker.
I call the Honourable Member Grant Robertson.
Mr Speaker, normally the second reading would be taking place after a select committee process, and had this bill been sent to a select committee, I wonder how many of what the regulatory impact statement tells us are the 68,600 children receiving the tax credit that Mr Dunn has just told us no one's getting. Mr Dunn doesn't care about. I wonder how many of these 68,600 children who are mentioned in the regulatory impact statement's parents would have come to the select committee and said, this tax credit's actually very good. This is about helping to teach our children about the value of work, the importance of paying tax, but that when you haven't reached a certain income threshold, you can actually get that money back. That would have been something that might have happened in the select committee. Isn't it amazing that the government's big tax idea, the first thing up straight after the budget, is to pick the pockets of paper boys and paper girls? That's the big idea in taxation from this government. We're not standing here tonight debating whether or not there should be a capital gains tax. We're not standing here tonight debating whether or not we should make the tax system fairer. No, we're debating whether or not the government should penny pinch from children who are getting their income. From things. Well, Maggie Barry wants to start the debate, she does, about GST, about it going up to 15%. We could have had that debate, but no, we're not having a debate about capital gains tax. We're not having a debate about actually taxing all income, not just the income of actual workers, but the income that people get from selling off their second homes or other capital gains that they make. We could be debating that. We could be debating how to broaden our tax base, how to make sure that we actually have a fairer tax system. But instead, the bill that comes in front of us tonight, Mr Speaker, sets about picking the pockets of 68,600 children. That is a ridiculous thing for this government to be focusing on. It's pathetic penny pinching. It's got nothing to do with growing our economy. It's got nothing to do with making our tax system fairer. And instead, that's what the government thinks its number one priority is to come to the House tonight. It is bizarre politics, but it fits with a budget, Mr Speaker, that has completely missed the point. That has sent people over to Australia, that has said to New Zealanders, this government has no plans for growth, this government's lost all of its ambition, and instead it wants to bring a tax bill to get to 68,600 children and the meagre income that they get from doing this kind of work. And the fact is that the Inland Revenue Department collecting that money, a little bit of a bonus for those children at the end of the year, the bringing of them into the workforce, the understanding of how things work, but no, that's got to be got rid of. That's got to be got rid of. That's the kind of pitiful taxation bill that's in front of us tonight, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, I want to also refer to the student loan repayment changes, because I do think here we have an example of where the government is finally getting around to doing something that we have recommended from day one. And Mr Mallard was highly critical of the education standards of New Zealand that might lead to people actually using the repayment bonus scheme because it didn't work for them. But it did turn out that some people did use it, which is reasonably remarkable. The fact is that not very many of them did use it, and actually it hasn't worked at all. But if we do want to go back just a little bit to when National brought the policy in terms of the loan repayment bonus, we can see some of the excited statements that were made at the time. We have a statement here that says, we estimate that this measure will reduce repayment times of those who take up the bonus by 1.5 years, and we believe that it will decrease the upfront cost of new lending to 39.4 cents. How could anyone vote against that? Anne Tolley said that. I believe in a brief period when Anne Tolley was the Minister for Tertiary Education before Stephen Joyce came and took that off her portfolio. But that's what she told us. She said, how could anyone vote against that? Well, it'll be interesting to see what Anne Tolley does tonight. Will she vote for the repeal of this thing that she said nobody could vote against because it was going to reduce the upfront cost of lending to 39.4 cents? Well, it didn't do that. It didn't work at all, in fact, and Anne Tolley told us that. But it wasn't just Anne Tolley. We also heard in most earnest tones the following statement: this bill is a significant step to encourage student loan repayment and, more important, to reduce the overall repayment times. The message very clearly is that our young people will be debt-free sooner. Who said that? Louise Upston said that. She was up just after Anne Tolley, extolling the virtues of the student loan repayment bonus. Extolling the virtues of the student loan repayment bonus. But there is one more person who got on their feet to proclaim the importance of this. And they said, I say to this House that this is a significant incentive for students to pay their loans earlier. I cannot fathom why anyone would oppose the introduction of such an incentive. Peter Dunn said that. That's the minister who has moved today. And that's actually a new record for Peter Dunn, because previously in this House, we've had Peter Dunn standing up to repeal bills that he put forward when he was a minister in a Labour government. But I do believe, Mr Speaker, that this is the first time that the minister has come to repeal a bill that he put up in the national government. He's shortening, it's not about shortening repayment times, it's shortening Mr Dunn's time to go back on what he's already done.
Hardly a flip-flop, this is a straight flop.
Well, yeah, exactly. A complete flop, Mr Mallard. From 2009 to now, Mr Dunn has turned around and said he couldn't fathom why anyone would oppose the introduction of such an incentive. Well, I can't fathom why it was introduced in the first place by Mr Dunn, and here he is, 3 years later, as Mr Mallard says, not a flip-flop, just a flop. Louise Upston, Anne Tolley, they all got on their feet to tell us what a wonderful thing this is. And here we are, straight after the budget, ready on this side of the House to debate the overall taxation system, what fiscal policy should be, and instead, Mr Speaker, what we're debating is the National Party flip-flopping on something they did in 2009 and trying to take money out of the pockets of 68,600 people. That's the best we've got from the National Party out of this budget, is to have a debate about things that they did that they want to change 3 years later, and petty penny pinching from children in this country. We could, Mr Speaker, be having a debate today about a capital gains tax. We could be having a debate today about superannuation, about savings. We could be doing those things. Todd Macleay says the election. I'm not sure. I went to about 22 public meetings with my National Party opponent in Wellington Central, and I'm pretty sure he didn't get up and say, we're going to take the money out of the pockets of paper boys and paper girls. I might have missed it. Did any of my colleagues hear that? No, none of us heard that. So Todd Macleay says there was an election. Mr Macleay, I think Rotorua might have turned on taking the money out of the pockets of 68,000 children. I think it might have turned on that. If Mr Macleay, Mr Speaker, had been up front, if he had been up front with the voters of Rotorua and said, I'm going to take money out of the pockets of paper boys and paper girls, 68,600 of them, according to the regulatory impact statement, then Mr Macleay, I don't think he would be back here today. A host of national MPs, because clearly, Mr Speaker, this is the most important taxation measure that this government feels it needs to bring in front of the country, is to do this. This is a ridiculous piece of this legislation, Mr Speaker. This government's budget is so poor that this is the best that they can do. This is the best the National Party has got for New Zealand, and it's simply not good enough.
I call the honourable member Todd Macleay.
Mr Speaker, where one might start after that